Eric Stiegel, eXp Realty here at the Mountain Lakes office in the Seneca Lake, Keowee area. I wanted to go over with you guys. It's a little late, but better late than never. The Federal Reserve met back on the 14th of December, I believe it was. Chairman Powell had his press conference, answered questions for about 40 minutes. I'm going to link the entire video below, but I just wanted to give you what my high points were. First of all, their target rate for inflation is 2%. We're 3 times over that right now. So his point was this is going to be a longer process than probably anybody wants. And they're basing this on the data for every meeting once they meet, right? So when they meet in February, they could change it a little bit. But the point that I got listening to him is that they're going to stay the course as a Federal Reserve, and they're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that we get inflation under control. Because if you don't have price stability, you're never going to have an economy that's growing or growing consistently for long chunks of time like we've seen in the past. He's also basing, and I absolutely agree with this 100%, he's basing their model of staying the course and continuing to raise those interest rates if need be for as long as it takes to get it under control, because he doesn't want to repeat what happened in the 70s where that Fed decided to ease off on their policy a little too soon. They thought they had it under control, but they didn't. And then they were left with probably a decade of high inflation and high unemployment. So what they're looking at for next year, just for example, currently the Fed funds rate sits at 4.5%. Their target median rate for next year is 5.1%. That's if nothing changes, everything stays the way it was on the 14th. Meaning we've got about 75 basis points of rate increases to the funds rate next year. My thought, and I'm not an economist, is why not do what they did in the 80s and go ahead, if you know that's your target, let's go ahead and raise it 75 basis points and get it behind us. Chairman Powell, when asked the question, and my thought is, his point was some of the rates that they've increased this year, and they've increased the Fed funds rate over the last year 4.25%. And they would have thought sitting there on the 14th, the Fed thought that their policies would have had a greater effect on inflation than it has to date, knowing that some of those rates, because of the lagging nature of the rate, it hasn't kicked in yet, so we're not sure the effect it's going to have. So I think that's a positive thing. He seems really serious about getting that under control. He also said that next year, even though the labor market right now is really strong, we're going to see unemployment tick up, which is just normal in this situation. That's going to be one of the most painful things to go through, I'm sure. But here's what I would say, and he mentioned this, but he didn't mention it in any political kind of way. It's actually, when you're watching the video, it's at the 40-minute, 15-second mark. He said the ideal goal would be to get the economy back to the way it was in 2018, 2019, and 2020. And I couldn't help but think, because his words were this, and I'm paraphrasing, we had inflation a tick below 2%, we had full employment, and the economy was burning at the most efficient rate that it possibly could. So that's what he wants to get back to, but he doesn't have enough tools in the toolbox to make that happen, because if you're paying attention, we had different policies in place during those years, and the executive branch and the Republicans and Democrats in Congress have a responsibility. There's some things they could be doing. Number one, stop spending money. Number two, less regulation. Number three, a tax cut would be nice. Chairman Powell mentioned that the tax cut that happened during that time, 2018, 2019, 2020, the beneficiaries of that tax cut were on the lower end of the income range. So it really was helping, lower middle class, upper middle class, small business owners. those were the folks that were benefiting from that tax cut. So again, I think you have to have the Fed doing their job and our political leaders doing maybe a little bit better job, or they kind of work against each other, right? Again, I'm not an economist, but that's my 2 cents. If you have any questions, would love to chat. Hope you're having a great day. Take care.